This week on the Wyndham Community Podcast is all about the upcoming state election. Have you ever wondered why someone would put their hand up to run as an independent candidate? In order to find out, we've been joined by independent candidate for Werribee, Paul Hopper. Welcome to the Wyndham Community Podcast with Shannon Maguire, a local resident of Wyndham with a passion for the community and improving our connections. The show aims to provide a balanced and safe platform to keep you informed about what's happening in your community and promote engagement locally. I hope this show can help you learn new things and inspire you with ideas from locals and people that care deeply about our area. Every episode we aim to give an in-depth analysis on local issues affecting us all, events and investigation of people within our community with interesting stories, responsibilities or opinions. As I say every episode, there's a whole section in bookstores on self-help, but there's no section for helping others. This show is not only about your views, but how we can help each other. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording today, the Boonwurrung and Wadawurrung people. I pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening today. As the state election is fast approaching on Saturday the 26th of November 2022, we reached out to key candidates for electorates within the Wyndham City area. Paul Hopper agreed to come on the show and tell us why he's running as an independent candidate for the Werribee electorate, along with what he believes are the key issues for the area. For those new to the show, I'd like to invite you to our local Facebook group called Wyndham Community Podcast, where you can connect and discuss local issues and events with like-minded individuals. It's a safe space for questions of leaders in our community and engaged citizens. But more so, it's a space to engage with others to arrange meetups and opportunities for all. There is a link in our show notes on how to join, or please contact myself, Shannon Maguire, on Facebook for an invitation. But before we start, every episode I want to make you a little more knowledgeable about our area. A quick fact about Wyndham is that the original Aboriginal inhabitants had a name for the river that flowed through the plains of Imaru. It was Werribee, meaning spine or backbone. Due to the reliable water supply from the river and an overnight stop being required for the trip between the developing cities of Melbourne and Geelong, a small village named Werribee developed at the river. And with that, up next is an interview with Paul Hopper. Okay, all right. I'm here with Paul Hopper, a candidate for the Werribee electorate, independent candidate, from my understanding of it. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Can you tell me a bit about yourself and why you put your name forward to represent the electorate?
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. So, born and bred local. I suppose that's where my journey begins. Born in the Werribee Hospital. I'm nearly 50. Father of four, family man, local business person for more than 30 years. This is my tribe, this is my heartland, this is where I've grown up, these are the people I care about. And for a long time, I've been, a supporter of the community and different things and sporting clubs, not-for-profits, anything that's been available to, we've tried to be as generous as we can when we can and whatnot. I've normally been someone who sat sort of 5 rows back or 10 rows back and just helping and supporting and haven't really put my name out there and maintained quite a private sort of profile. I never sought to use my name in business connection or anything like that at all. So, why am I doing this at nearly 50 years of age? Well, it's my tribe. It's who I care about. And I just probably increasingly feel a bit flat about how the major parties have focused on our area, especially out here in these growth corridors. The locals would understand that, the pressure from the growth, housing growth, the pressure on infrastructure, the pressure on schools, the pressure on health, community groups, sporting fields. There's a long list.
Yeah.
And, for as long as I can remember, it's been a pain point for the community and there's been a feeling, and it's probably increased substantially in recent times, that we just haven't had the focus of the major parties. Maybe that's because it's been what they refer to as a safe Labor seat and so on. I'll leave that for others, but that's why I throw my hat in the ring, is to see if I can make a difference. I don't come to this campaign as a would-be politician, never been on the agenda for me, but I'm a fiercely passionate local. and I'm quite protective of the community and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like with that kind of heart that I come, I think, to put my name forward and prepared to make a stand and see what I can do for the community.
Good. So I asked my 15-year-old son what question I should ask, and his response was perfect, I thought. So he wanted to know how you make decisions. So specifically, how would you balance information provided to you from the experts around like health, the economy, and that sometimes that might differ from even what the views of the community are. How do you going to balance those?
Well, I think that's a challenge, isn't it? How do you do that? So it's a great question. I think kudos to your 15-year-old for coming up with that question. But for me, again, I've been on the planet for nearly 50 years. I'm never the smartest person in the room. I'll probably start with that. You know, I'm not arriving in this platform, and if I'm trusted enough to be voted in, it won't be because I'm the smartest person going around. It might be because I'm the most trusted, and the most willing to listen. Mm-hmm. It might be because I would do things like, you know, if I was in Parliament in Spring Street, new environment for me, there'd be bills of Parliament to read. What I would seek to do would be, you know, form a local community level cabinet, for picking a sort of political type word that gets used. We might call it the cabinet of Werribee, or the kitchen cabinet, or the community cabinet, or we'll find a phrase. But I'd find a group of people from all diverse backgrounds and community interest groups, passionate locals, more recently arrived locals, anything in between, to help advise, provide input, and provide what their tribe, you might say, their subset of the community might think. Where are their issues? How does that interact with, you know, expert advice, as your son sort of touches on? So I don't feel I'd ever feel comfortable arguing with experts, because I'm just not going to be one. You know, if in my time, if I've got accounting matters to think about, well, I'm not going to argue with the accountant about debits and credits and balance sheets and stuff like that. I'll get confused pretty quick. So I just need good advice, and I might sort of cross-check that with some street smarts of some of my more operational crew. And so that's sort of what I'm getting at. I think you need the expert advice, but you also need a cross-section of heart and soul at the street level. And then you hopefully find a good balance in that. That's how I'd approach it.
So further to that last question, let's say there was a new COVID-19 strain, which was twice as deadly, and there was a clear health recommendation to return to lockdowns. How would you balance that advice with community expectations and the impact on the economy, mental health, and obviously the impact on this area as well?
Yeah, well, that'd be an enormous challenge for us all. I think it's pretty raw, you know, coming off the back of a couple of years of challenges and lockdowns and all the issues that created for our community. And I agree, out here in the growth corridors, we've got a fair age population. We've got grandparents, we've got young people, we've got mental health issues, we've got the full spread. And we're now, I think, all starting to see the scar tissue of what the pandemic's done. And, you know, I would have said earlier on in the pandemic, you know, I'm glad it's not me making these decisions. You know, right at the very start, it was very, very difficult. So I don't feel that it would have been very easy for the politicians at the time to know exactly what to do, which levers. They pulled some, you know, maybe they pulled a few too many for too long. I don't. It's very difficult to know. There's been all sorts of commentary on that. But I think my decision making be along the lines of what I've shared. It'd be balanced out with health advice, balanced out with, I mean, health advice is critical. And that's those people, and what do they call it? Epidemiologists. I hadn't even really understood that phrase before the pandemic. Now it's sort of everyone's, you know, we sort of know that. But, you know, that's a very specific area of training and expertise. So, you know, of course we've got to listen to them. But they're perhaps they're looking at it through a prism of just health. But I think what we're learning is sometimes there's a prism of long-term issues and people's mental state of mind and health and needs and their children's learning and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I think it just has to be all considered in balance. Fingers crossed we don't have any more versions of anything that cause too many problems. But we need to go in eyes wide open. We might be entering a time when we have more and more of these types of challenges. We've got to work together as a community. That's what I would try and do. Yeah.
So the next question probably talks to that as well. So Wyndham having a disproportionately large impact from COVID. on its residents and health and economic outcomes, with somewhat limited targeted supports in place for the area. What would you have done differently, do you think, or what would you do differently in the future to support the community, considering the unique demographics that we've got here?
Well, I think if you're taking a more balanced approach to, I hate using the language, but the lockdowns, because it's still quite raw, but I would hope that just by having a more balanced approach to that, we're not as severe and harsh to, like, big small business, for example, like the micro businesses that have got maybe 3 to 5 staff. Just a horrible predicament to be in. Yes, there was government support, some state, some federal, all that kind of stuff, and that probably helped a little. But business momentum, their staff's well-being, the momentum, all that, very, very difficult. Same with education, all that sort of stuff. So, and out here in our heartland, growth corridors, then you roll that into family issues as well. So what I would want to do is advocate for our people, where the needs are, and really have a good broad understanding of the pain points and the potential issues that might arise from any action that's taken, and just balance that out with the health measures. I'm not presuming for a moment to say that would be easy and I've got all the answers. I don't think anyone ever had the answers, in different jurisdictions around the country and the world handle it differently. And there's no shortage of commentators on what might have worked best, but I've read a lot of it. I don't know that it's easy to say that worked better than this or anything else either. So it's, yeah.
What are 3 main things you would work towards achieving if you were successful in representing the electorate?
Well, I think the obvious ones out in our part of town are the infrastructure items that are really behind because of our growth. So I think they're the ones that come about because of that growth burst that we just continue to have out here, which is fine, but needs to be matched ahead of time. So more planning for more investment in roads, schools, health, community centres, sporting clubs and whatnot. I think I can speak for a fair portion of the locals, and having spoken to a lot of people, it just feels like, the houses go in, the developments go in, there's levies set aside for things, but then there's plans put in place for things, but they just take so long to come on stream. Couldn't we just, before these states built the school? And maybe it's not full at the start, but at the moment it's the other way around, and the school's probably under pressure and the teachers are under pressure. And then we're sort of scrambling for more funding and whatnot. So I would really be advocating for much, much better planning and things to be put in place before the growth hits, so that it's better for our residents, better for our kids.
In order for this community to flourish, please subscribe to the show on your platform of choice for regular updates on issues and events that affect you. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Android-based podcast apps. Just search for Wyndham Community Podcast. We also have a Facebook page called Wyndham Community Podcast. Please join and be as active as you would like there, and talk to your friends and family to also join in on this social experiment. A lot of shows ask you to rate them on Apple Podcasts or your platform of choice, and we would love you to do this. But what's much more important for us is, considering that we are a local podcast to Wyndham and only really focus on the people of Wyndham and the surrounding suburbs, is if you want to support the show, please tell a friend or family member in the area to get involved and to share our show with them and others in the community. And with that, let's get on with the show.
So the city of Wyndham's known for 2 areas of serious, talking about infrastructure issues. I believe we're the worst LGA in Australia for green canopy, and we're also the worst for access to swimming infrastructure, with just 2 pools covering about 300,000 people soon. What would you do to invest in these areas?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd agree. The green canopy issue out here is, the developments go in, they put small trees in, medium trees. They last a season, a dry season, and then they seem to fizzle out and die. So, I mean, I'm not a horticulturalist to know what kind of trees need to be planted. Some grow faster than others. Some need more water than others. But there just has to be more care and attention for the right type of plants, trees to be planted and required at development level. I think we are starting to see a lot more of that. I mean, I know in the estate where I live, there's been a truckload of trees getting planted in the nature, the reserves that are there, rather than just be grass that they mow. There's trees going in everywhere. So I think there is already some issue. Yeah, there is. and trees beautify well. They provide a slightly cooler environment for our suburbs. So I think we've got a bit of underinvestment in that, and some historical developments maybe years ago that just didn't have any eyes for that. And there's not even a spot to put a tree. There's work that needs to be done for sure. And on the swimming side of things, then the growth is again the issue. We've got a good local pool here in the heartland of Werribee. We've got one out in the Tarnate area there in off Derrimut Road. Put a third, put a fourth. Has Point Cook got a decent pool? I mean, it's not in the electorate I'm standing for, but I think if you spoke to the locals out there, they'd be advocating for much more investment in good, Olympic level, for elite swimmers as well, and as well as kids. So, if in those more broader parts of the greater Wyndham area had the level of commitment and the level of investment in those public spaces, public pools, for example, then that's going to take pressure off the ones that are in the heartland of Werribee.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, that kind of ties into, even though it's not your electorate, the surrounding electorate's impact on yours as well.
Fits together. Yeah. We're all part of the greater western suburbs, and you've got the greater part of Wyndham.
Yep. All right. So last question. So when I was running for local election a couple of years ago, many state issues were raised by the residents as major impacts in their lives. And you have spoken about this. Most importantly, were the infrastructure investment, in particular train stations and major road upgrades. And again, you've spoken to this. We need these, generally speaking, if the emphasis was we need them before and not after it. And in particular, around that, again, this is not necessarily your electorate, but it'll impact some of it around the Davis Road train station and the plans for Truganina station. So that's one of the issues. The second one that's complained about probably the most is around the town planning system, which is a lot of smaller land blocks, no real infrastructure investment. For example, and there's no clear downtown in many of the newer suburbs. And again, you've kind of got the main street of Werribee, which is a pretty straightforward one for the electorate. But then, Tarnate North, Tarnate West, Truganina, Williams Landing, they're all issues that seem to, that there's that, this is what we're talking about when you're talking about tribes, like where do people go to congregate? So where would you kind of see that in what you would do if you were elected? So I guess, to roads, train stations, and I guess town planning.
Town centres, well, we're right now, we're recording in the historical town centre of Werribee, and it's one that I've grown up here, so I love it. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it's great. Love it. I love the people that congregate. We love the vibe and the feel, and it could be better too. So, I'm sure council at the local level working on that with the local traders and business people. No shortage of things that could be done over time to improve that. And, I agree. In some of the growth corridors, we don't see these traditional strip shopping centres. And I think Point Cook, they've tried to work on one there. I think that's working well for the community there. I like that. I think there could be more of that, just to create that community spirit, that community hub, that place of purpose and ownership. I think they're healthy things for a community. And I touched on before, we as a family, we've got nearly 50 years of history in the area, trying to do our little bit where we can to support anything community, cultural, sporting, arts, anything like that. So the more of that happens, the better it is for the fabric. And then probably over time, it just helps, to have less issues. Well, roads we've touched on, there's some really obvious things to me that could be done to help really all of Wyndham, not just Werribee, but, just can I talk about it, for example? Because I think it's one that if it could be prioritised, could take an enormous amount of flow through pressure off all kinds of roadway. And I'm no traffic engineer, so I'm probably not going to have it all right. I'll have some experts saying I've got something wrong probably. But if you're in Wyndham Manor Lakes and you're wanting to get to Tarnate, other side of the river, it's not far as the crow flies, but there's only really a couple of ways to do it. You've got to go Shores Road Bridge, or you've got to go through the main area of Werribee, Cottrell Street, or through the main street, Sinnott Street, Watton Street, or something of that nature. You could go the long way around the freeway, but that's an awfully long journey there. But it's been spoken about for years, but that third river crossing, be it Ison Road out on the north side, crossing the river somewhere through there, or Hobbs Road, and again, I'll leave it for the experts. They're things that are well spoken about. They just haven't been done. Like they could have been done years ago. Wyndham Manor Lakes, enormous volumes of housing out there, high quality housing, good quality communities. And we've got people out there that want to be able to go to dinner with their friends in Tarneit or go to sport somewhere. And so it's just a big pain in the butt. So I know bridges are expensive and all that sort of stuff, but when you're earmarking the developments and the people are going in, look, there's levies that are set aside there. I mean, I'm sure there's budgets for all that sort of stuff, but it just has to happen. It has those. So that third. Anyway, I'm waffling on a bit, but that third river crossing to me would save a whole lot of people having to think about going through Shores Road Bridge or through these main areas. Of course, then you could add to it duplicate Shores Road Bridge, and while you're at it, duplicate Heath Road between Shores Road Bridge and Tarneit Road. Yeah, plus the Tanny Social Club and up through there. There's a bottleneck all the time, especially in peak hours. So fix those things. Bolan Road all the way through to Bolburn Road, not just the top end of it, but all the way through. Should have been done 10 years ago. I mean, yeah. And if those few key pieces of the puzzle were put together, I just think everything would work better. Get Werribee East done. I'm off question a little bit in that one, but Werribee East.
That's your electorate, isn't it? Werribee.
It is. It's in this electorate, but it sort of belongs to everyone, really.
Yes.
Because if that precinct, that employment precinct, which was first tabled 2012 or 13, and there's been plans and it's been spoken about, and like as a local resident, I just thought it was going to happen. Well, state government own the land. Obviously, they've got the land. Get a developer. Make it happen. It can't be that hard. Well, obviously, it's much harder than that, of course. But what are we? 10 years, 12 years down the track, and nothing's happened, and it's really frustrating. I think in the vicinity of 60% of the residents in this area leave the area to go to work. If Werribee East could be designed cleverly, good employment, good balance, a little bit of carefully thought out residential in there to create a real hub, a real CBD, like a mini CBD. Yeah. That'd be tremendous for keeping pressure off the roads as well. Obviously, the freeways and the public transport as well. Yep. So, I mean, these are other people's thoughts. I'm not inventing these comments. These are just ones that they resonate with me, and I believe that a lot of the local residents would be cheering on as well on these ideas. But get Werribee East up and running, and then you solve a lot of the other issues as well. Build those few road planks. You take pressure off all of the other pieces of the infrastructure. Less time we're sitting in cars, traffic jam, the more time we can spend with our families or doing the things that we want to do, or recreation, or keeping fit, or doing some craft, or whatever it is you want to do. No one likes sitting in a car too much. No. Except for when you're listening to a podcast like this. There you go.
On the train. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Is there any questions that I haven't asked, or anything you wanted to kind of relay to people listening about how to get in touch with you, or anything specific?
Yeah, thanks. Not really. I mean, we've got a pop-up here on Watton Street, 92 Watton Street, just opposite the Cultural Centre there. We're here for the duration. We like talking to people, so if anyone's listening, feel free to pop in. My shout for coffee. Yeah, I like hearing from people what their issues are that they're seeing in their little pocket, their world, their tribe of our beautiful town out here. I'm committed. I'm locked in on putting my name forward now, and I would hope trust is probably the greatest advantage I've got. That years in the community, and my father before me as well. We've been consistent. We've done the right thing, and perhaps that might resonate, and people can trust me enough to put me in Parliament. As I said at the start, it won't be about me. It'll be about the community. We'll rally together and we'll get some stuff done that might not have ever been done before out here. So
that's good. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Shannon.
We want your ideas and feedback on the show itself, and what we can do to support you in your local area. Have you got a story that you would like us to cover, or an issue that we have not covered yet? Or even a guest that would be amazing for us to meet? Please contact us on Facebook, email at wyndhamcommunity@gmail.com, or call me, Shannon, on 0408 308 451. If you do like the show, in order for others to find us, please rate us on your platform of choice, including Apple Podcasts. If you do rate us on Apple Podcasts, we will read out the rating and comments live on the next show. So with that, I wish you all the best and hope this show has given you information, food for thought, or connection now or into the future with somebody. Look after yourself, and if you can, somebody else in your community.